But yeah, it would have been good if we could have come through here early in the morning, because it's been raining recently, the soil's really wet, and the frogs would be really happy if there's a bit of water, just a little bit of water in the billabongs, and the frogs are going crazy. And this is the kind of beginning of spring. A lot of the species are beginning to breed. See these bits here? That's a flower head. This one's a new flower head, and this one's an old flower head from last year. So these come up from the base, and you see these bits here? That's the seed right there.
Summer.
Yeah, well, it hasn't flowered. It's already sort of flowered. It's very hard to see the grass flowers. They're quite hard to see. But just here at the bit at the base, that's the seed. And then it has this very long tip. And that's sort of like a feather that's attached to the top of the seed. And so when a wind comes along, it can grab it and fly away in the wind. And that'll help. Yeah, that'll help to disperse it. So by weeding out all of this stuff, which has taken up all the space, and we can create these bare patches. When these get released, hopefully they'll fill up these spaces, and we'll get more of the natives growing up instead of these weedy plants. That's the plan. And yeah, so when they're done, when they've already done all their seeding, they look like this and they're dry. So this one's empty. It's just these bits have opened up and released these. So you got the dark bits. This one doesn't have any dark bits, so it's already released all of its seeds. And this is like, when you get corn and it's got those hairs kind of on the top, it's just kind of the junk stuff that's left over. So it's not very useful, but it's done its business.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one's very early, I think, because we've had quite a dry winter. Normally it rains quite a lot and the weather's quite cold, but it's been quite dry, so things are starting to flower earlier, and they're starting. So these shouldn't be flowering till around October, November, but one's already come up. But in the next month or so, they'll all come up and they'll all seed, and hopefully we'll get a beautiful little environment. That's the plan. This is the hard part of the job. It's fun, it's rewarding, but it takes a lot of time. Yeah, so we do have contractors that do it. So part of Merri Creek Management Committee, they have a team of workers that will come out and do this sort of work, and also the Darebin Council have a team of workers as well. And I do contract work through them, not through those particular places, but for other companies. I do contract work when I'm on holidays from uni, so I've got a lot of experience as well. But there's not a lot of funding for environmental work. It's not the primary aspect of a lot of those organisations, so there's just so much work to be done because we have so many areas that need to be looked after in Australia, and there's not enough funding to pay enough contractors to do it. So that's where the voluntary programs become really important in getting a lot more work done than contractors can do on their own.
Yeah, it's a part of the community. Everyone has the responsibility to do this.
Yeah, and it's really good. We have a small group today. I think because it's been raining, people don't tend to come out as much, but on a nice sunny day we can get more people. But we've only had this group for about a year, or probably 2 years now. But this is the first year I've been doing events on a regular basis. Before that it was a bit sporadic.
I'm probably going to stay
the
where I am
goal is
for a
to
while.
get a community of people that live nearby. There's a lot of houses nearby, young families, and getting people involved and getting children involved is really good, because then they learn about the environment from an early age, and they get more interested, and they can appreciate it better. So we do these events, which is the hand weeding events. We do the planting events where we put in all of these sort of things popping up, and we also do rubbish clean-up days where we go around and collect lots of different rubbish around. And so they've all been really quite popular. I thought the rubbish would be the least popular one, but lots of people love it. People like to get involved in things.
And it's fun,
it's
but it's
more
like,
just about
first they
the difficult part.
They're like, okay, so here
is
are
informing
all the things
everybody.
That I hate about
You
my
know,
own
putting it in the right places so that people are aware of it.
Yeah.
The word of
things I
mouth
hate about my
is
own
the
company
best
was just started
way of
this.
doing it. But
Sometimes. How did you get into the
Yeah, it's really hard to get people informed these days because there's so many platforms to put things on. It's not like in the olden days you put an ad in the newspaper and everybody reads the newspaper. Whereas now, where do you put it? You know, not everyone checks that Facebook page. You can't just put it on all over Facebook, and you know, you can't. Well, you could go around and put it in everybody's letterbox. It's not really. No one does bulletin boards anymore. So the communication angle is really the most difficult angle. If people want to get involved, they just need to know things are happening before they'll come in. Because the weeds have just grown up so rapidly over the summer. So we only run the volunteer projects from around April until October, November, because over the summer it gets really hot. There's not much work we can do because the ground's too dry and it's not nice to work out in the hot sunshine. So we just kind of take a break over the summer, let people enjoy their holidays or whatever, plus I go away for work. And then we reconvene at the beginning of the year and we do a few months of as much work as we can. So this has been sort of neglected because I haven't got to this bit over the last few months. We've been focusing on doing cleanup projects mostly. Yeah, I think the vegetables are really good because in Australia people love planting in those gardens, but they plant non-native species, and a lot of what's been introduced into Australia came from, you know, first settlement and stuff, and white people went around and just wanted to plant stuff that grew from England to make it look like home. But we still have things happening now where people plant in their own backyard and they essentially escape over the back fence. So whatever you plant in your yard, once it seeds, it spreads its seeds into neighbouring areas and into neighbouring areas. So not so much around here because it's so well established, people have been living here for so long. We've had invasive species for so long, but particularly in more rural areas where people might back onto bushland or somewhere like that, if they're not planting native plants, then whatever they're planting is going to spread into those bushland areas that might not have had the invasive species yet. So that's a big problem in the more agricultural sort of areas as well. The students love to come here. So it's always full of rubbish. It's a really flat area, you can notice in comparison to everything else.
Where's the playground there? Why do students don't go to the playground?
It's like a hiding area. They come here when they're not supposed to be here, you know. So when they're supposed to be in class, they come down here, or they'll come down here to smoke cigarettes, or they'll come down here to smoke marijuana and do things they shouldn't do. So when I do cleanup days and we go through, we'll find old couches, old chairs where they've created like little bases and stuff, you know, typical kind of teenage hangouts. And
That's just like a secret base.
yeah, and surrounded by rubbish, chip wrappers, old sandwiches, bongs, like everything you would expect a teenager to throw away, you will see it there.